Hey guys, what's up? Struggling with look ahead? Today we will be going through 5 of what I think are the most important things you need to know to get your look ahead to the next level. Let's go. Are you kidding me with this Number 1. When does look ahead start? Alright, so in case you were wondering what happened that solve, so I did the white cross here, which is a pretty straightforward cross, just insert orange, and then insert blue and red, and then all of my corners were in the bottom layer. Now, have you ever wondered why this happens to you? Why this happens to anybody? Have the gods of cubing just decided to play a prank? I want you to think about your answer to this question before I tell you the answer. When does F2L look ahead start? The answer is it starts during inspection. That clip in the beginning of the video when I get all my corners in the bottom layer after doing the cross is actually faked. You know why? Because this never happens to me anymore, and it never happened to me ever since I started looking for first pair during inspection. So in this particular case, after doing the first 2 edges of F2L, L to F prime would end up with all of the edges really bad, so instead you can do a U before the F prime, and then you actually have a good first pair to work with. It's not the greatest of first pairs, but at least it's better than having all the corners in the bottom layer. So once you're doing that, you can look ahead to what's over here and then take that out, pair it, and then continue, and your F2L would actually be okay. Number 2, actually slow down. See, I know the saying usually goes slow down and look ahead, but how many people actually do both? Normally, people just still turn really fast but try harder to look ahead to make up for the fact that they haven't slowed down and it's still hard to look ahead. So if you actually slow down your turns, then you'll find that you can actually improve your times and have them be more consistent. Alright, so it's a simple fact. If you can't do F2L at under 11 or 10 seconds, that means that you cannot do F2L at about 3 or 4 turns per second. And if you can't do F2L at about 3 to 4 turns per second, it means your look ahead is not good enough. And if your look ahead is not good enough, maybe that's because you turn too quickly. Alright, so I can keep throwing the word look ahead at you, but where should you actually look? Because that does matter. If you're looking at a spot where you don't find anything, or you're looking at the pair that you're currently doing, then there's really no point in looking ahead because you won't be finding any useful information. Number 3. Don't look at the pair you're currently doing. First of all, there will obviously be no useful information where your current pair is. So if I'm doing this pair, I want to make sure that I'm looking at the other side of the cube. Alright, so here, if I were looking at this pair, let's insert it, and I see this corner, and where's the corresponding edge? I don't know. However, if I was looking at the other side of the cube, then I would have found that edge. It's right here. And I would have been able to focus on it because I'm no longer focusing on this pair. I'm letting my muscle memory handle it. So if you don't think you're at the stage where you can let your muscle memory handle how to do each pair, then maybe this isn't for you yet. But once you think you can execute every pair as if it were an algorithm, then you are at this step and you should be able to stop thinking about the pair you're doing. So as I'm doing this one, I've already seen what was over here when I inserted the last pair, so I don't want to look over there again. Now I'm going to be looking at the front 2 slots. So as I inserted, I saw this edge and this corner, so I'm looking for any of the corresponding pieces. And here's the corresponding edge, but I saw white here, so it's pretty obvious that that is a corresponding corner, and I can go into this one right away. This concept of not looking at what you're doing is also important during the cross, and that's because your next thing you have to do is an F2L pair, so it's the same concept. You need to look ahead. Here I'm going to execute a bad cross solution for white, because I can't be bothered to do a good one, but the point is that I'm going to be looking at what I have next. So I'm going to start with doing blue and red, then I will just do green and orange, just one by one each of them. And so I see this corner already, and then now I'm going to insert green, insert orange, and there's the corresponding edge, and I can just go straight into that as my first pair. And then I've seen this and this while I was doing the first pair, but really the important thing is that during the cross, I did not have to think about it. I could talk about the pair I was looking at and still execute the cross solution. So here I'm going to go through my solution in real time during a solve that I will have timed. So I'm going to do white cross, and here's the green, orange, blue, and red. So I can do a D prime, insert the red, and then blue and orange are set up. And this will be my first pair. It will end up over here. And so I have my first pair and the cross already done during inspection. So I will be able to look ahead for my next pair, which will probably be this corner, but let's just see how it goes. All right, here we go. And I see blue and orange, so I'll do that first instead. And red and blue, I see that. And lastly, these two. And then OLL and PLL. And that's ultimately what eliminates pauses, the ability to think about one thing while doing a previous thing. Number 4, look at where new information is coming from. So when you're looking ahead, obviously some things to look for is when you find a corner, you're looking for the corresponding edge. When in doubt, look for where new information is coming from. Here's what I mean. Let's insert this pair right here. While we insert this, let's look at where new information is coming from. Let me ask you, is there any new information coming from here? And no, they're just pieces moving around as you do the insert. So what you want to do instead is look at this slot, what's coming out of it. So as we do this, and we can now see this pair. We didn't find what went with that corner, but that's okay. We did find something new, and that will help with our look ahead. As we rotate to insert this, well, I see this, but you will also find the corresponding edge to the corner. So as you rotate, you typically want to look here to see what you're missing, or if you already see something else, of course, you can just track that instead. So let's look at another example. Here I have this pair, and it's going to go in the back over here. And I have this corner, but I don't know which of these two edges goes with it. In fact, I probably wouldn't have looked at both sides, so I would only know that it's either this one or it's something else. So at this point, what I'm really wondering is what's in here. And I'm not going to do a rotation because by inserting this slot, I will see it come out. And so the first few moves of this slot is going to bring this one over here. So that's where I'm going to look next. So go like that, and now I see a pair that I can do next. And so I move on to this one. And then now what I'm really wondering is what was over here, because I wasn't looking at it as I was talking. So I'm going to do that, and I see this. And so the important thing here is that I sort of tilted the cube over this way, because the moment I saw this corner, I was kind of wondering what this edge was to see if it was the pairing one. So as you can see here, the important thing is that you really look for specific spots that you haven't seen yet and where there might be useful information. All right, so here, when I did a U, I saw absolutely nothing over here. So the first thing I did was tilt the cube over this way so that I can look at towards this edge, so I can look specifically at what's over here. And so the edge was there, and as I did that, I saw the last corner wasn't here, so it must be on the left side, and there it is. Number 5, memorize what certain algorithms do to certain pieces. So look ahead will be easier sometimes than it is other times, even if you can see what you already are looking for. So here's the corner and here's the edge, and I'm going to solve them like this. Now, the next thing we're going to look for is this corner right here. Pretty easy to track, right? So it's not going to move during the first 3 moves, and during the last 3 moves, it just moves over 1. All right, now we're going to look at a case that is a little bit harder to look ahead through. So we're going to insert this pair while tracking this corner. And I don't know if you've ever noticed it, but that is a little bit harder to track than things that just move over by 1. So first of all, if you try to do this really fast and track the corner, it's almost impossible. Unless you knew where it was going to go. You can actually just memorize where it's going to go. So during this case, if the corner is back here, it is going to move like that. So just imagine it come down, it will change its orientation a little bit. So if the white sticker was over here, then it will end up over here, and so on. So let's just do that. And there it is. So go back, and the edge was over here. So how about you know the corner is going to end up here and just track the edge, which is way easier. And my last example, probably the most important thing you'll need to know, just because it is pretty obvious and a lot of people should know it by now, but if you haven't finished the cross and your last piece goes in like this, then you should know that if there's a corner back here, then it is going to just move over here, as in if you had just done a U move. So the white sticker will be facing forward. So let's do that. So when you find these sort of situations for the cross during inspection, which is almost all of the time, you will know exactly where the corner behind it will go. And then that will help you a lot with your look ahead into your first pair without taking a lot of time to track where the corner is going to go. So that concludes my 5 most important tips for F2L look ahead. Here are just 3 quick solves of me doing only F2L. Of course, this is faster than 3 or 4 turns per second, but I'm still going at a speed that's reasonable for me to reduce the number of pauses that I have. If you have good habits with look ahead, then you'll be able to increase your turn speed without a problem. Please let me know in the comments if you've learned anything new from this video, and as always, thanks for watching.